Modern Dadhood. Modern Dadhood podcast.
The holiday episode, Marc.
Do you feel the festive? Does it feel like the holiday episode? Does it feel like it?
I think I'm feeling the warm glow of the holidays. Would you like to introduce the podcast?
This podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Modern Dadhood?
Mm-hmm.
An ongoing conversation about the joys, challenges, and general insanity of being a dad in this moment?
Yeah, do you want to say that?
No.
Well, would you introduce yourself at least?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My name is Marc. Check it. And I'm a father. I'm a modern dad, and I have 2 children, twins, who will be 5 in just less than 2 months at this point. Dangerously close.
And they're both boys.
They're good kids.
They are.
Well, now that I say it out loud, we can talk. Maybe we can get into that in a minute. But what about you? Who are you?
Oh, my name is Adam Flaherty, and I also am a modern dad. I have 2 daughters who, well, as of this episode, are like very close to 9 and 6. I mean, the conversations that we are having, my girls are almost smarter than me.
That's wild. I believe that because I know you.
I don't want to forget to say this. Dads, wherever you're listening right now, that could be Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Spotify, or any other platform. Marc and I would sure appreciate if you would subscribe and please leave us a rating and a review. It can just be a few words, but it helps us to turn new fans onto the show.
And we promise that we won't continue to open the show by saying, and I'm a modern dad.
Yeah, that was super dorky. And the only reason I did it is because I felt like I had to follow down the path that you've forged.
Yeah, no, I regret it. I do. I don't regret a lot, but I regret that.
Marc, who's the guest for today's episode?
Well, I'm excited because the guest is someone that you already know. Mm-hmm. You guys go way back. We're talking college years. And I'm not going to lie, listening to y'all reminisce a little bit got me a little bit jelly. But he was a fantastic dude. His name is Joe Mandravelis. And beyond being a friend to you, and I'd like to think now a friend to me as well.
That's how it works.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
I hope so. Joe. He's also a dad, and he's got a pretty amazing story. And we talk about his life a little bit.
Before we do the little music sting,
mm-hmm.
Getting into the next portion of the podcast, before we do the sting, there's one other thing I want to say.
Oh, say it.
I want to remind listeners that I'm going to be attending and speaking at the Podfest Multimedia Expo at the end of January, presenting a breakout session on the use of video to promote podcasts and just hanging out there for a few days. I really look forward to meeting some people, learning some things about podcasting that I wasn't aware of. And I'm really hoping to hang with you, Marc. I don't know, though. I don't know. You haven't convinced me.
I'm going to get my act together. Ye of little faith, dude. I've done a lot of things in my life that I've accomplished by waiting till the very last minute. So,
I'm hoping that that's true. But right now I am in I'll believe it when I see it camp.
Okay. You wait.
Podfestexpo.com. Grab your tickets and join us down in Orlando in the end of January. All right. Just before Christmas Eve, I know that our listeners celebrate all sorts of different holidays. You and I celebrate Christmas. We're just before Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. How are the boys doing? Are they going nuts? What's their behavior like? What's the energy like?
Are we talking about like naughty and nice list type?
Yeah, yes. Are they on the nice list?
Well, listen, if I'm the one writing the list, I don't know. Let me tell you what happened yesterday and what happened today.
Okay.
Yesterday, one of my kids took a scissors and cut through the sleeve of one of my jackets that was hanging in the closet. That's behind me here.
That's devastating.
That's
but can I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just need to ask. Did you say took his scissors or took a scissors?
He took a scissors, which is so we have like an art cart, you know, like a 3-tiered. It's got wheels. You can hang things off the sides of it, and we keep it in the closet. And
that sounds great.
But yesterday, for some reason that just I don't understand. One of my kids took one of the scissors.
Okay, hold on. Only because you paused before you said he took a scissors. It's like it's like a singular with a plural.
A scissor?
Or you think it's like a scissor or some scissors or a pair of scissors? Would you say a scissor just on a regular old Wednesday talking to your neighbor?
I would say a scissors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. It's just
I've never questioned
you and I
it
live in
before.
different universes, Mark. Check it.
Damn. Well, you are in Maine.
A
and I am
scissors?
in New Hampshire. He took a cutting device and he cut the shit out of my sleeve.
Yeah,
That's the point of the story.
Yeah, all right. So yes,
And the
back
question
to your,
is, and the question is, why did he do that? And so my other son, you know, whether this was the right thing to do or not, I don't know. But he came over and he said, I have something to tell you that I'm afraid to tell you. And I said, you have to tell me now. And he said, my other son cut your jacket. And I went, what?
I'm guessing that this wasn't just like a throwaway jacket.
It's a nice outer shell.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so I was flabbergasted, kind of pissed, but also I think I was more flabbergasted than
Confused,
anything else, you know? And so here's how I dealt with it. I went over and I said, hey, did you do this? And he said, yes. And he said, it was an accident. And I said, it was not an accident. It was a mistake. And I'm not mad, but I need you to understand that it was a mistake and that we can't make that mistake again.
Were you being fully honest with him though? Were you mad? I'm mad now about it. Now that I think about it. And when I go and look at the jacket, I'm mad about it. But ultimately, it's a jacket. Okay. He didn't hurt anybody. You know, I don't think it was done maliciously. You know, I think it was, I'm going to see what happens when I do this. And so, and I didn't want it to turn into a big fight in that moment. No.
But hearing him say it was an accident, in my mind, I was like, I got to call bullshit a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I cannot let him get away with, I accidentally pulled the art cart out, rifled through to find the sharpest scissors, took the scissors, and then, you know, went through all of your jackets to find the easiest one that I could cut.
And then went for it.
Yeah. Like, no, it was just a decision that you made that was a wrong decision. And I hope in hindsight that you see that it was the wrong decision. So that happened yesterday. Today, my other son put a huge fucking hole in the wall in his room by slamming his door open. And literally there is a doorknob sized hole in the drywall.
I didn't even know that sheetrock would like bust like that, like in that shape. Doesn't it seem like it would crack or something?
It's almost like a cartoon. You know how like a cartoon character like quickly turns and runs away?
Yeah.
And then there's like a perfect outline shape of the person running through the wall. That's kind of what it looked like, but doorknob.
Wow.
Shaped.
I would never have guessed that would happen.
Yeah, it happened and it was loud. And there was a moment of silence.
Yep.
That was followed by immediate like
stuffing a sock into it.
No, he just got his drywall kit out and started patching it up, threw some mud up there, and
he put some mud.
I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it again.
He got some of that mesh and put it over.
Yeah. he was having a moment. He was really upset. He had earlier in the night was a really sweet moment because he said he had kind of a sad day at school. And so I was holding him and I was telling him that sometimes that happens and we can talk about it if you want and all this and that. And then I think it just, the day became too much for him.
Yeah.
And then it was close to bedtime and he was tired and he was having a real meltdown. And so we put him in his room because he was being kind of destructive.
Yeah.
And we didn't want him to be destructive. So we put him in his room for a little bit of time and he opened his closet door and just slammed it with all of his might against the wall. And, so all this to say,
That's how it's going.
we're going to leave it to Santa to decide which list these guys are on.
I mean, that could be a scenario where they were on the nice list all year long up until the final week.
Little strikeout.
And then Santa might just skip over number 17,
Let's see. Check-in household. Ooh, so close.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's like
Man.
my girls aren't acting up so much as just like emotions are very high and very volatile, but that's like really no different than every time we talk about our kids and I say emotions are high.
We're emotional creatures, us people.
All right, let's transition into the next part of the episode where we talk with my friend Joe Mandravelis about his awesome family and their relationship with autism spectrum disorder. So Joe Mandravelis is a senior design engineer and a musician. Joe lives in Connecticut with his wife and 3 kids and happens to be a personal friend who I met in college years ago, like early 2000s. We recently reconnected and I'm so psyched to have you here, man. Thanks, Joe, for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on.
How much more manly can you get? The word man is in your last name. Feels a little unfair.
It's a part of my heritage, being manly, and I was bestowed the name Mandro by my football coach in high school, and that kind of stuck with me through college.
So we hung out a lot in college and played a lot of music together and did a lot of stupid stuff together, as you do in college. But since then, we've really only seen each other a few times and stayed in touch, a little bit. But this past fall, Joe reached out because your parents actually live, despite you living several hours from where I live, your parents live only 10 or 15 minutes from where I live. And I didn't realize that, but you reached out and said, I'm in the area. And we ended up hanging out for a couple hours. You came over and we, one evening after your daughter, who you had brought up to visit your parents, were in bed, and we did a little fire pit and caught up, and it was super nice.
It was awesome. And I had to do some sweet talking to my parents to convince them to let me leave. I almost felt like I was in high school again. Like, yes, Mom, I'll be home by 11 o'clock, and I have my phone on in case she wakes up. But yeah, that was good. Good seeing you and hanging out. Actually, I can't think of the last time I hung out in a fire pit. I need to do that more in my life, I think. So
one of the things, we caught up for a couple hours and had some good laughs, but one of the things that we talked about and that you shared about was your kids. I would love to have you just sort of start off by sharing a little bit about your family, your kids, their ages, and we can go from there.
Yeah. So my oldest is Mia. She's 6. She's going to be turning 7 this coming March. And then we have twins. They're boy, girl, and they are 4. They just turned 4 in September. So that was quite the experience, going from one child, then all of a sudden having 3. That was, I'd say, life-changing, to say the least. They're awesome. And I did mention they are on the spectrum, so it makes life challenging sometimes. So that was kind of the biggest, I think, shock, because when right around the time that we had the twins, that's around the time we started noticing things with our daughter, and eventually we got her tested and, into programming to kind of help her. And it was definitely a challenging time.
So all three of your kids are on the autism spectrum, and your oldest daughter was 2 or between 2 and 3 when the twins were born?
Yeah, she was, yep. Yeah, it was around the winter when she was 2. The twins were born in September. And it's kind of just like amazing to kind of think where we were and then to where we are now, because they're doing really good now. At the beginning, it's just, you have a child, and, there were a lot of instances when she was younger before we had the twins where, she had some difficulties going places or going to the grocery store, being around people that weren't familiar. We talked to the doctors about it, and they said, no, she'll be fine. She'll grow out of it. And, we kind of just kept going. And eventually we got to the point where she was in daycare. And then she had some incidents where she was showing some aggression to other students in the daycare. So at that point, the staff met with me and my wife and said that, we should probably work with birth to 3 services to meet with her and see what's going on. And they came to our house, and at that point they realized, hey, you should probably get her tested for autism. Fortunately, I had a close friend that worked in the industry, and his father had a practice. And we were able to get her tested within a few months, or actually I want to say like a month or so. And then that's when we found out, they told us that they thought she was on the spectrum and that she should start getting, ABA services.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when you say ABA, it stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis Therapy.
Yeah.
So this is new territory for me. And so I'm just wondering if you can describe a little bit, what does testing look like?
So they bring them into some doctors and evaluators, and it's really like kind of play-based. So basically you're having a professional work with the child to see their skill levels on what they should be doing for their age range. So she was 2. So there's certain milestones that they need to hit, but they're trying to measure her capabilities in all skills of, playing, communication, language, which is a huge part, and communicating, which she had a really difficult time, speaking and talking. So that was one of the indicators. Her social skills weren't at a level that you'd see a typical 2-year-old.
Now, was that when you had asked her doctors and you were told, she'll grow out of it, it'll be fine? Was that the type of thing that you were asking about? Why is her verbal communication not at the level of other kids? Or were you seeing signs of like the aggression, the daycare was seeing?
It wasn't, that was newer, but, it was like when she was younger, the amount of words that she had seemed to be lower. Mm-hmm. It was more like anxiety, that she was afraid to do certain things. And then add on top of that, my wife is pregnant with 2 babies while this is happening. And then that huge change of all of a sudden now you have 2 kids, 2 babies into the house. And then on top of that, my son, he ended up having to go into NICU for the first month because he had premature breathing. So we were kind of all over the place, from the hospital back to home, having, family here to help. And that's right around the same time we found her that, she was they suspected she was on the spectrum.
So your wife is pregnant with the twins when you start to go through the process of trying to identify what may or may not be going on in your daughter's life. What's going through your mind as it pertains to now these new kids? Are you at all worried for the 2 unborn kids, or are you not even thinking about that?
Yeah, Yeah, well, the way that it happened was, we found out after they were born.
Okay.
So
the timing was
they had already been born when we found out. And at that point, my wife was, she researches everything online and looks all the information. And, one of the biggest things she found that if you have one child with autism, the chances of your siblings having it are exponentially higher.
Okay.
So at that point, she had reached out to get them, because the wait lists were so long, she got them into a program to be tested between 12 and 18 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At a local university hospital. So that's how we were able to get them, even though we had no idea they were just babies at that point.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
Get in line now.
What did you say, like 12 months old is when they were doing testing on the twins?
Yeah, for that program, it was 12. So actually our daughter, when we had her done, she was the first. It was a pretty quick turnaround after going through the testing. Say, yeah, we think she has autism, and we recommend, you get her into, programs to support. And then my son, fast forward, this is 2019, right into 2020 when the pandemic starts. That was right around the time when we started getting my son into that therapy, and then they gave him that diagnosis right around the pandemic time frame. So once things shut down, that was, definitely a challenging time, the five of us in the house together. But eventually their school provided service inside the house where technicians came with masks, and they were able to work with the kids like 6 hours a day. Then they kind of rotated and tried to do programming in home, which was, really helpful. But the biggest challenge is to get them covered to do that. When they're under the age of 5, you have to go through insurance. So you have to be on a good insurance plan to kind of be able to do that. So the amount of logistics and work and, meetings and conferences and working with insurance claims is, which my wife pretty much dedicates her.
As if it's not enough. as if dealing with kids at all isn't already just like enough to think about.
No, and I love them more than anything, and just wanting to be a dad and play with them, and fast forward to where we are now, and all three of them are getting services and going to school, and their progression, academically and socially has been really amazing. So it gives me a lot of hope.
One more question about the history side of things. So the twins are going through some of this testing around, like you said, like 14 and 15 months. Were they showing signs to you and your wife, similar signs to that of your daughter?
Yeah, I mean, it was all kind of unique. So I think when my son, he seemed to be a lot more socially aware, and he was, looking everywhere and seemed to make eye contact with people. And my daughter, she didn't have the eye contact, and, there are certain, things to kind of look for. And I think the biggest thing was just getting set up to get them tested as soon as possible, considering the fact that our oldest was on the spectrum. So just getting that in place, because the biggest advocate that you have is yourself, and you have to fight to get them the services that they need. I feel horrible for, people that go through this or don't know what to do.
One thing is spending the time, but like got a lot of people who have jobs that don't offer insurance that covers this stuff too. So it's do you go into poverty to pay for these services, or do you?
Well, so birth to 3 is one of the services that they provide through state. It's probably different based on, which state you're in. So, but when it's your kid, you do everything you can to, get them set up for success, and then once they're 5, they enter the public school system. And at that point, they're no longer under insurance, and you're under the kind of the care of the school. So that's kind of based on the town or city that you live in.
How have you found that to be?
It's definitely a challenge. I won't get into specifics, but our kids did try that. Our oldest did. It didn't work out successfully, and she went back into the autism school that she was in to kind of continue on. And we're kind of on like a year by year basis to, evaluate and see how she does.
Would your preference be that they go through the public school system and that there are accommodations made to support them and, integrate them with the entire student body?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would be, ideal to try that again. At first, it was like amazing. She was doing so good. She wanted to be in the class with the kids. She wanted to do the programming. Kind of throughout the rest of the year, she slowly kind of started to regress and, was having a lot of difficulties. And one of the things that's huge in autism is, routine and rigidity. And sometimes when things don't go as expected for her, it's, complete chaos and stress.
We've talked about this a lot on the show, but like inherently as dads, I think a lot of us, just feel the urge to like protect our kids from whatever it is. When you are out in public and it's particularly challenging, like you guys must deal with people who are assholes or just giving you dirty looks or just like staring. Yeah. I would go into full protection mode and yeah, I'm not a confrontational person, but when it comes to my kids, like I'm not going to let anybody mess with them. That
happens sometimes. And I don't even think about them. It's like, it's all about my kid and what do they need to be comforted. It's like, if we have to turn around and leave because, it's too difficult, I do that. It's like, one time over the summer at my company, they had a kind of an event for all the the people at our work and families to go to a local, AAA baseball game in our city. And we thought, okay, we built a storyboard for her with pictures of the stadium. We were trying to because that helps if they visually prepare for where they're going. And we took her there, and her anxiety from the noise and like the music that they were playing and all the people.
Everything's just big.
It was just, it's just so intense. She can't handle it. We ended up leaving. I think we stayed for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes, and like all my coworkers were trying to say, "Hey, Joe, how's it going?" And they're being nice and trying to, talk to me and my wife and my daughter. And it's just, I feel horrible because it's like, you think going to a baseball game would bring, complete joy for a kid and something fun to do as a family. And, for her, it was, difficult.
Yeah. Has there been anything that has been like particularly helpful for you and your wife? Any like resources, any advice, anything that's been really helpful for your family as you've been navigating this journey?
Yeah, I'd say definitely, if you suspect anything, to go, usually there are services for the age up to 3 to kind of, get the services they need, work with social services to kind of reach out to them to get that support. And I think reaching out, connecting with other parents, my wife is a lot on social media, through like Facebook and stuff. She's in different groups where she's able to communicate and talk through different forums about, all these parents are going through the same stuff together, making, friends with the kids that are in her, her same school, program and stuff like that.
I have a question. So in the 5 or so years that you've been sort of in this world and, a part of this community, have you found that on a societal level, there's been any substantial or any at all, I guess, advancements in understanding or the level of awareness or the level of acceptance for folks on the autism spectrum?
Yeah, I think it's definitely people are more aware of it, and people are realizing now there's probably a lot of people that, might actually be on the spectrum and they just struggled in life and people thought they were weird, but, their mind works differently. So I think things are trending better.
I'm just curious if you and your wife at all have sort of thought, not that anybody with young kids can like sit down and like think about, big picture, future sort of things. But have you ever sat down and sort of thought about what an ideal future, not for your kids, but for the world that your kids are inevitably growing up into would look like?
I think acceptance is huge. And that goes kind of across all spectrums of mental disorders or, sexual orientations or religion, stuff like that. But, I do feel like there's more awareness going on, just accepting people for who they are. And, there's people who are brilliant that are on the spectrum, and they've created amazing things and inventions and art and stuff. So I think I don't look at it as a challenge. I look at it as a gift that comes with the part of working through that social aspect, which is so huge in the world, to be able to communicate and talk to people.
One of the things that you touched on in that answer, Joe, was like both awareness and acceptance. And that's something that Marc and I have been talking about too. It's like whether it is mental wellness, mental health, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it is racial diversity, like we can talk all day long about it to raise awareness of it, but acceptance of it it's just a different thing. Like you need to just normalize it. And like, of course, part of normalizing is talking about it so that people have the language and the tools in their toolbox to address it and feel comfortable talking with other people about it. But then you just need to do whatever you can to ensure that everybody has the same opportunities. Different people are going to have challenges with things for different reasons, but you just work through it with the tools that you have. It's a big thing, and it's kind of overwhelming to think about a little bit, just because I don't even have all of the language to properly like convey what I'm saying right now.
I hear you. And I think it's like, it's one thing to say you want to do it, but you gotta live it, and you gotta do it through actions. It's like human nature to kind of point out what's different. But I think that's what makes, humanity so amazing. And for me anyways, I work with so many different people and different cultures and, different ways of life. And I just want to learn as much as I can from them. Unfortunately, I think, as a kid, growing up, in the 90s, other kids kind of laughed at things that were different, and I didn't know any better. But, kind of growing up and, evolving as a human, as an adult, as a father, it's just, I just think there's better out there, and you got to do that. It starts with yourself, and and trying to practice that, and be a better person. And I think like we're talking about acceptance, that's the biggest thing you can do, and be open to things that are different, beyond your comfort zone.
Obviously, we've spent a lot of time talking about like the difficult and challenging things that your family deals with and has dealt with for the last 7 years. And obviously, I'm sure it's easy to focus on the things that are hard or different from, like, I don't want to use the word traditional, but like a family that doesn't have children who are on the spectrum. But what's awesome right now about being a dad for you? My oldest daughter, her free spiritness, her creativity is mind blowing. Like, and I think a lot of times that people on the spectrum, they're gifted. She is super intelligent. She also is very silly and very funny, and she likes to tell stories, and she loves to laugh, and she loves to role play. So I love playing with her and doing that kind of stuff. And her younger sister, she's just the most adorable little demon that you could imagine, because she's so sweet, but she gets herself into mischief all the time.
Yeah, it's like, but we've sort of said the word challenge a couple of times as it relates to what perhaps somebody who is on the autism spectrum has to face, right? There are certain challenges, but to me, I wonder if the biggest challenge is for those who are not on the autism spectrum to get to the point where they're crossing that threshold between awareness and acceptance and doing whatever it is that they need to do in their daily life to get to that acceptance.
But here's the tricky thing as it pertains to Joe's family, right? It's the part of diversity, equity, and inclusion is exposure, right? And so if Joe's children are in a school that is specifically equipped to educate children on the autism spectrum, and they're not in the school system with other children, then the other kids don't have the exposure to it to be able to accept it, right? That's the problem. And the issue is that the school doesn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to accommodate their unique style of learning and unique needs, right?
Yeah, well, it's different. Every school's different. Every town, every city, their programming's different. State, I don't know what things look like down south. I don't know what things look like across the country. But you're right. But I think a lot of kids do get services through the public schools. So that's kind of what we're shooting for, to hopefully get her back in that setting, where she is exposed to typical kids. So so you're right. It's a trade-off of getting those specialized services to being around other typical kids and getting to learn modeling their behavior.
Right.
This is what I'm kind of talking about. Like, you've got the public school system, right, which is supposed to be for the public, and yet it's not for all of the public, because your kids are part of the public, and the system that's in place and the structure that's been created is not conducive for every type of situation. And maybe it never will be, but shouldn't that be a goal, to constantly be evolving?
It's unfortunate that you need money and means to kind of do that, and makes you really feel for those less fortunate that are dealing with, lower, economic status, and trying to handle that too, because, man, I think I have it bad some days. There's someone else that has it worse. So I try to be grateful for what we have. The other thing is, like, my kids are healthy. They're strong. Yes, they have challenges, but it makes me want to be more accepting and understanding of those who are different, and be a friend. Because, man, I'm fucking weird too. So.
Kindness and gratitude seems like a good place to wrap this out. Yeah. Joe, it's like it's honestly, it was so good to reconnect with you a few weeks back, and this has been a really rich conversation. So I really appreciate you being so candid, Joe. It's been good to connect with you on this level.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and you got a fan here.
I thought we could end with a joke.
You want to end with a joke before we close it out?
Yeah. We begin the ending with a joke.
Sure. You've got one planned, I assume, because I don't.
Well, I was wondering if you had heard about the chameleon who couldn't change colors.
Chameleon who couldn't change colors?
Yeah. It's actually quite sad. He has a reptile dysfunction.
Okay, it's clever. I get it.
He has a reptile dysfunction.
I get it. Right. Yeah, it's like a dick joke. It's funny. Listeners, dads, moms listening, thank you for spending your last 35 minutes or so with us on Modern Dadhood. Please consider, wherever you're listening, to leave a quick rating and review on Apple, Amazon, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever. All episodes are also available on moderndadhood.com. Please, wherever you're listening, do leave us a rating and a review. And in your holiday parties, please tell one friend about the show.
Just tell a friend. Don't forget to find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn simply by searching Modern Dadhood. If you are on the website, don't forget you can purchase t-shirts and dad hoodies. They're available on our website. That's moderndadhood.com. Every order ships with a free sticker.
Ding.
Also, you can contact us through the form on the website or by emailing HEY at moderndadhood.com. Tell us your hopes and dreams for 2023.
We want
What
to
about Pete Morse? What about Casper Baby Pants? What about Spencer Albee?
Well, let's extend our gratitude to them.
Casper, Spencer, thank you for the music that have lovingly crafted and provided to us for our show.
Thank you so much to Pete Morse at Red Vault Audio for mixing the show, making us sound great, always offering good advice on how we could sound even better. You can visit Pete at redvaultaudio.com to learn more about what he does. Also, thank you to my longtime friend, Joe Mandravelis. It was a great chat. I learned a lot. And if you're interested in checking out Joe's music, I'll put links in the show notes to his Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages for Joe Mandro Music.
I'd also like to say thank you for listening.
And happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Podcast. Just a modern.